Hello friends, it's Aslam again here in Istanbul, and it's a rainy day here in Istanbul, and I will be speaking to my friend Gavin Blackburn. He is a British citizen and he has been to 64 countries in the last 30 years, and he will share his experience of travel before the coronavirus and during the coronavirus pandemic.
First overseas trip was in 1990, and it was a school trip to France. The town that I came from was twinned with a similar town in France, and we went there, I think, for 2 weeks. So I was 10, and in those days, I mean, really nobody flew anywhere in those days. I remember we got on the bus at school. This is in the north of England near Newcastle. Got on the bus at school like midnight, drove all the way to Dover, the ferry over to Calais, and then from Calais drove to the town, I can't remember the name of it. There was a day trip to Paris, but it took ages to get there, but it was really exciting because you're using a different currency, you know, it was French francs in those days. And first time abroad, and you know, slightly different food and a different language. It was really exciting. How many countries?
Yeah.
I think it's 64. I think I went to Egypt in December, and that was the 64th country. Gosh, I don't even know how you can answer that. Well, I would certainly say that the Egypt holiday, I was there for 2 weeks, was probably one of the most interesting holidays, because of all of the historical sites, the ancient Egyptian civilization, and all of these things that still exist today, and not just the pyramids, you know, all over the country. That was really interesting. And I suppose the other one that was really interesting, that was a real thrill to go to, was North Korea. That was another one that was just incredible to visit. So completely unlike where I'm from, you know, and in fact completely unlike anywhere else I'd ever been before.
So is it difficult to get into North Korea if you're a British citizen?
No. I think it's only really kind of difficult to get into North Korea if you're American. But of course, you have to go with a tourist group anyway. You can't just go in as a private tourist. So you make your application with the tour group, and there aren't very many. And you give them all the passport details and stuff, and they deal with all the visa stuff. So no, it's quite easy. Well, one thing that I've always said, and it sounds a bit sort of slushy, it sounds a bit too poetic in many ways, but I think the one thing that I've realized with traveling to all of these places and meeting all of these people is that I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but I think it's like Alfred Hitchcock. A smile is universal. You don't even have to be able to speak Spanish or Korean or Mandarin or whatever, but everybody understands a smile.
So smile is like the universal language.
Yeah, because everyone knows what it means, and and I think the minute that you smile at someone, it's an expression of friendship, and I'm not a threat. And you actually learn, if you're in maybe slightly out of the way places where the English level isn't great, and maybe you can't connect to the internet and use Google Translate, and you learn in ways to communicate without language, and it's a lot of like signaling, and if you just have this permanent stupid smile on your face, it kind of works. Well, I think I've always traveled as long as I've been an adult, a working adult, I've always managed to find the time to travel. And of course, as a working adult, I've always kind of had the money to be able to do it. Although traveling doesn't necessarily have to be really, really expensive. I mean, there are ways that you can do it quite cheaply, and actually, I would say I would tend to go towards that slightly more budget travel, because then you can do it more often. You know, if you spend £6 on one holiday, that's kind of it for the year. And very often 4 days is enough just to kind of dip a toe into a country. You're never going to come away as like an expert and a full understanding of what that country's all about, but you can at least get an impression of it from like a quick trip.
When are you going to Pakistan?
well, Aslam, as well you know, we've been talking about this holiday to Pakistan for at least 2 years. And in fact, there was an article, I think in the Daily Telegraph, just at the start of this year, that had said that, obviously predicting when travel sort of starts up again properly this year, that Pakistan should be on the list of every adventure traveler's sort of bucket list. You know, it should be number one. So I'm very curious to go. So I mean, we could go now actually, but I don't know what the immigration regulations are with coronavirus, and I need a visa. Well, I would say that, you know, it sounds maybe a little bit trivial and kind of selfish, but you know, COVID has had an impact on all of us in different ways. And so for me, I've never had coronavirus, and touch wood I won't, and nobody that I know has had it. So really the impact on my daily life was the not being able to go anywhere. And of course that took a bit of getting used to, because every 4 days you would sort of pack your bag and go to Albania or Montenegro or whatever. And then to get used to not being able to do that. But then of course you also accept that it's for the good of everybody, that you don't just travel willy-nilly. And I understood the restrictions. I never sort of protested against them. You just accepted, well, okay, well, this is what it's going to be like for the time being. So I did a lot of traveling domestically in Turkey with the precautions that you're supposed to take. So the mask, which I'm not wearing at the minute, but I do have it, and the hand washing and sanitizing and the social distancing, and while it was allowed to do so in Turkey, and sometimes it wasn't, but while it was allowed to travel within Turkey, then I used to do that. So 2020 was very different to the previous years, but I mean, I understood it. Well, I mean, you're right in your statement that this is probably the most beautiful part of, maybe not the most beautiful part of all of Istanbul, but certainly the most photogenic part of Ortaköy, and everybody knows the mosque here and the bridge, and on a sunny day, I mean, obviously it looks 10 million times better than it does today. I mean, life in Istanbul during COVID was okay. I mean, there wasn't ever really like a blanket lockdown that just went on and on and on. I think they were a little bit more selective about when and how they did that. So the disruption, I think, to your daily life wasn't really so severe. So for example, we were able to go and get coffee this morning. We just couldn't sit in the cafe and drink it. You had to take it away. And the sort of the occasional weekend lockdowns. But I think that also what it meant was, with the travel restrictions being what they were, is that it was maybe an opportunity to go to other parts of Turkey that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have gone to in a normal year. So for example, we group of us would always go to, say, Bodrum for the summer holidays. You just book into the same hotel and go down there to the seaside. And actually, 2020 we didn't do that, right? We never went to Bodrum.
Yeah, we went to Kars and Are.
Yeah, so you go to places that are maybe a little bit more off the beaten track and where they're actually surprised to see foreigners. Kars and Ara, Iğdır, Adana, Mersin, Tarsus. These aren't really, if you think about tourists coming to Turkey, it's Istanbul, it's Antalya, it's maybe Bodrum or Marmaris, Alaçatı, but like a seasidey place. And these more interior places people don't really go to very much. So it was great to get a let's say a fuller picture of what Turkey's like. It's probably the country other than my own that I think I probably know the best in terms of how much of it I've seen since I've been here. It's okay. I mean, I can get by. I can manage. I couldn't do this that we're doing now in Turkish. It's not really at a conversational level, but it's good enough to ask where the toilet is and order a beer.
Your favorite Turkish word?
Favorite Turkish word? Goodness me.
Efendim?
Well, yeah, I do like efendim. And I do quite like the word Cumhuriyet, which I found out on my trip to Egypt. Actually, it's from Arabic. Obviously, there are a lot of Arabic words in Turkish. It means republic. It's the Türkiye Cumhuriyeti. It's the Turkish Republic. Quite like that.
All right, I hope 2021 will be a better year for all of us.
Jesus, I hope so too, because last year was bloody awful.
All right, thanks, Gavin.
Thank you.
So we had a great conversation with Gavin Blackburn. He has shared his personal travel experience before and during the coronavirus pandemic. I hope you liked this video.